What we're saying this morning, you got to have a press in your soul. You got to have a desire to go all the way with the Lord. You got to have a desire to seek God's face and to please God perfectly in every area of your life. In other words, God's not looking for those who are half-stepping, but God's looking for those who are willing to go all the way with him. He's not looking for those who are making excuses why they couldn't go. He's just looking for those who are willing to go. When they asked Isaiah, and they said, who shall we send? Isaiah stepped right up and said, Lord, here am I. Send me. Oh, I wish we could get some folks this morning that would say, Lord, here am I. Send me. We got to have that mindset, the hunger and thirst after God. I've discovered that many people, they say what they want God to do for them, but they're not willing to give God a try. They're not willing to go all the way with God, or they'll go a part of the way, or they'll come to church for a little while, and if everything didn't just turn around like magic, they say, well, I tried God, and he didn't come through for me. You didn't really try God. It's not in my time. It's in God's time. God didn't say when he's going to do it. God just says to be obedient to him and to be faithful. And if I'm obedient and faithful, I know that in God's appointed time, his time, not my time, in God's appointed time, God will move for me, God will meet every need in my life, and God will break every yoke of Satan in my life. Can you say amen? I'm talking about going all the way. 1 Samuel chapter 15. God had given Saul instructions to go and destroy the Amalekites. Now, God had a reason for telling him to do it the way he told him to do it. In other words, these are wicked people. God wanted him to destroy them, totally destroy them, exterminate them. If not, they would pollute the Israelites. You know, I found that you got to separate yourself from the world. You got to separate yourself from those who would bring you down. Sometimes you try to buddy up with folks and say, well, they're not saved, but I just like to hang around with them. Now, I'm not saying that you just quit associating with everybody that's not saved, but when you see that somebody is not in your best interest and the things that they do are going to be detrimental to your spiritual life, honey, sometimes you got to let them go. And God has told Saul, listen, I want you to destroy everybody. I want you to wipe out these folks. Men, women, children, even their animals. Kill everything and everybody. But Saul began to use his own reasoning. He used his own logic. He actually thought he had a better idea than God. Can you imagine that? You might say, well, that sounds crazy, but you know what? There's folks today who think they got a better idea than God. No matter how much we stand up here and preach that, you know, if you just be faithful and obedient to God, God will supply your need. But somebody gets a better idea, so they thought, I think I better hold back a little bit because I might not have enough money to pay my bill. The devil is a liar. Well, I'm going to pay some of it, but those people at that church can't expect me to pay 10% of my money. The devil is a liar. Now, you know what? Partial obedience is disobedience. Huh? I better say that again because some folks don't know that. Partial obedience is disobedience. Now, if you're dealing with me and I tell you to go somewhere, you go half the way there, you know, it might not be a big deal to me, but I found out God has very specific instructions. When God tells you to do something, honey, he don't mean for you to halfway do it. If God tells you to do it and you don't do it, you were just disobedient. God has a way. God has all wisdom. See, I don't have all wisdom. Your idea might be just as good as mine. But we don't have a better idea than God. God knows all things. He's got all power. He's omniscient. That means he knows everything. He's omnipotent. That means he's got all power in his hands. He's all powerful. He's all powerful. He's all knowing. He's omnipresent. That means he's everywhere. If you take the wings of the morning and fly away, God will be right there. If you make your bed in hell, God will be right there. Where can you go to escape from the presence of God? So God tells King Saul, Saul is the first king of Israel. Now, the way that they got their king was, they said, we want to be like all the other people of the world. That was a mistake right there. God said, I call you out to be my special people, my anointed people. I'll be your God. I'll be your king. But they wanted to be like everybody else. You know how your kids sometimes say, oh, come on, Mom. All the kids are doing it. I want to be like everybody else. I want to do what everybody else is doing. Let me tell you, when God separates you and sanctifies you and calls you aside and calls you out to be different, he means for you to be different. But the Israelites didn't want to be different. They wanted to be like everybody else. They said, Lord, give us a natural king. We can't see you. Give us a king that we can see and touch and go talk to him. So God gave them King Saul. And now Saul is operating in the office of the king. And God told him, listen, wipe these people out. I don't want anything left behind. Now let's pick it up at verse 9. It said, but Saul and the people spared Agag and the best of the sheep and of the oxen and of the fatlings in the lambs and all that was good, and would not utterly destroy them. But everything that was vile and refuse, that they destroyed utterly. Can you say amen? Amen. Saul figured, well, maybe God didn't know all the good stuff that was here. And so he decided, I'm not going to obey what God said. I'm going to obey what God said to a certain extent. But all the thing that I think is good stuff, I'm going to save, and I'm going to destroy all the bad stuff. But God has said it's all bad. I want you to wipe out everything. It's all bad. We start using our mind and thinking, well, this is not so bad. You know, that's when you get into trouble. When God says, honey, you got to go all the way. All the way. And he said, they saved some of the best things. It said, then came the word of the Lord unto Samuel, saying, it repented me that I have set up Saul to be king. For he has turned back from following me and has not performed my commandments. And it grieved Samuel, and he cried unto the Lord all night. And when Samuel rose early to meet Saul in the morning, it was told Samuel, saying, Saul came to Carmel, and behold, he set him up a place, and is gone about and passed on and gone down to Gilgal. And Samuel came to Saul, and Saul said unto him, blessed be thou of the Lord. I have performed the commandment of the Lord. Now, will you listen to him? Blessed be you. I did what God said to do. No, he didn't. He did what he wanted to do. Let me tell you something. I see this every day that sometimes folks want to pacify God instead of obey God. Huh? Just like Cain. Cain tried to pacify God. He brought God something, but it wasn't what God wanted. He brought God something that he wanted to bring, didn't come from the heart, didn't have any meaning, didn't have any significance. He was doing it in a legalistic way. Well, God said he wants a sacrifice, I give him this. Wasn't from the heart, wasn't what God wanted. It was something that he decided to give to try to pacify God rather than obey God. You see, when you try to pacify God, you're still trying to be in charge. What I'm saying this morning, if you really want to be in the will of God, you got to give up. You got to give up your way and take on God's way. You got to forget about who you are and know who God is. You got to give your all to God, all to Jesus.